Good morning, friends and enemies. Today we will be re-ranking every rookie for Dynasty rookie draft that you guys probably have coming up in the next few days based on the fact that rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft are now done, right? We did this video post round 1. So we had 10 skill players and we ranked them how I would rank them after we saw the draft capital. Here were the 10 rankings of the players that were drafted in night 1. Now we're going to sprinkle in everyone that was drafted in round 2 and round 3 so you guys have a more holistic view. I believe there were 30 skill players drafted in rounds 1, 2, and 3 combined. So you'll have about 2.5 rounds of rookie draft data to go off of following this video. So if you are new here, subscribe to the channel. We'll be covering all rookie stuff, Dynasty content, whatever, throughout the remainder of the offseason. And let's get into the rankings. Not much has changed in the first 5 picks. We have Genty, Omarion Hampton still, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Tet McMillan. That's like kind of a big 5 for me. And that's where we get a tier break. And this is the first part of the new rankings that actually shake up a little bit for me. And I do want to say, like, I don't love doing specific rankings like this guy is 12, then 13, then 14. I think it's more valuable to you guys to talk about these players in terms of tier, because when you give specific rankings 5, 6, 7, then it's like this guy is going to outperform this guy. But in Dynasty, it's very, very team-based. It's very, very situational-based. And because Dynasty is a more progressive game, a lot of your leagues have varied scoring settings. And you guys play in tiered PPR, full PPR, tight end premium, or point per carry, 3 wide receiver starts, 4 wide receiver. You know what I mean? So I like to kind of give you the option of like, these guys are all in the same value tier of me. So I kind of hate being pinpointed into rank him here, rank him here, rank him here. I took a stance on liking this guy. And I'll let you know if I have a stance of a player above another player. But I say that all to say, after the first round, Emeka Egbuka was my 6th player. He was the 106. Now he's actually moved down 2 spots because I've made a tier of just Ohio State players, okay? Because we had Quinshon Judkins. That name gives me hell. I am in hell when I have to say his name for some reason. My brain does not work with Quinshon Judkins. But Quinshon Judkins goes 36 overall, early in the 2nd round to the Cleveland Browns. 2 picks later, the New England Patriots take his backfield mate, treveyon Henderson. So I have Judkins, Henderson, and Egbuka all in a tier together there, 106, 107, 108. If you have a strong pull on liking Henderson over Judkins, go for it. If you have a wide receiver heavy league scoring settings, or that is where your team needs help, or it's PPR focused or whatever, go in the direction of Egbuka. I personally, here's how I'll lay it out. Judkins falls into the best landing spot, in my opinion, for immediate opportunity. Jerome Ford is still there. He's obviously not the guy in Cleveland. This is also right around the draft capital spot where Nick Chubb was taken. And that's why I like these early 2nd round running backs, because we typically see, like, NFL teams don't like to spend their 1st round pick on running backs, meaning the best running backs typically fall to the early 2nd round. So it's not like you're looking at them in the same way that 2nd round wide receivers do, right? For fantasy, this is typically where you get a lot of the elite running backs. Of course, there are the Genties and the 1st round picks, but early 2nd round is like Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Nick Chubb. Like, that is where a lot of those guys end up falling to and becoming stars in fantasy. So when I look at Judkins, you have a 3-down back going into a situation where they don't really have competition for touches. Again, Ford is not the guy. I don't know if they're going to re-sign Nick Chubb there. I don't think it matters at this point in his career because of who he is right now with the injuries and stuff. We don't know what the quarterback situation is, and that kind of gives me the most murky outlook for him. Whereas you look at treveyon Henderson, and it's like, yeah, the Patriots have a little bit of a murky situation, but they're clearly an offense that is on the rise. Drake May is going to take a big step 2nd year. They just drafted Will Campbell, their left tackle of the future. And so we look at where these offenses are going, and it could be ships passing in the night. I personally liked Henderson more than I liked Judkins as a prospect. However, you have to be objective about the situation. They just re-signed Ramondre last year. They just gave him an extension, right? Like, different staff, different execs there, different personnel there. So maybe they don't like Ramondre Stevenson. You go out and handpick treveyon Henderson. Like, that becomes your guy there. I just don't think treveyon Henderson will come out of the gate as the workhorse, but I do think he has the skill set to develop into that. He is an excellent pass protector, like really, really good in the pass protection game, which is good because that means he'll probably play on 3rd downs. And that's a really, really valuable role in the offense. He is explosive. He's a huge playmaker. I could see by year 2 him being the workhorse here. So I don't necessarily have a really, really strong lean one way or the other. Situation's better for Judkins for immediate opportunity. I personally liked Henderson a little bit more as a prospect. I think his upside's a little bit better there, but I do think you could make the argument that the floor for Judkins in terms of touch workload outweighs that. And then you have Ibuka. Again, probably won't make a year one impact, but I think he'll be a great PPR player going forward. After that, we've got the tight ends again. We've got the tier of Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland. Go whatever way you want with it. Matthew Golden at the 11 right after that. And this is where the day 2 picks start to infiltrate the rankings pretty heavily. I'm going to try to go through these quickly because otherwise we'll be here forever. At the 12, 13, I've been going back and forth with who I want to take here. But I think, again, ultimately it's going to come down to your team need as well as your scoring settings for your league. But I do have this little tier of Trey Harris and Kaleb Johnson, actually. So Kaleb Johnson goes to Pittsburgh, 3rd round draft capital, so a little bit lower, but beautiful landing spot. I've listened to a lot of the stuff that beat reporters out of Pittsburgh have kind of posted this morning in terms of content. They all love the scheme fit for Kaleb Johnson. They all think that he's going to be the 1A to Jaylen Warren's 1B. He will be the early down guy. I think Warren and Kenneth Gainwell will take a lot of 3rd down work, but I think Kaleb Johnson just kind of profiles like Najee Harris and will probably fit right into that role. So I think he'll have a really, really heavy carry workload right away. They've invested heavy capital into their offensive line over the last few years. So I think the situation is good pending the quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers goes there and now you have DK Metcalf, George Pickens spreading things out, like I think this could be a dangerous situation for Kaleb Johnson. I'm a big fan of his tape. I was a big fan of his play. So at the 112, the 201, that feels really, really good to me. Trey Harris is a 2nd round pick to the Chargers. I think he complements Ladd McConkey in this offense so well. Love this pick for Justin Herbert. Love this pick for the Chargers. He is a bigger receiver. He's a guy that can make plays after the catch. Think of like A.J. Brown light. He's not as explosive down the field, but he's a bigger body receiver that I think, again, he's like a better version of Josh Palmer, a better version of Quinton Johnson. He complements Ladd great and will be an outside boundary receiver, which I think gives him a ton of upside in this offense. So I love that pick for the Chargers. After that, I've got R.J. Harvey at 14. Now, R.J. Harvey, I've come on here many, many times and just bashed the shit out of R.J. Harvey. But I also want you guys to remember what I've said about R.J. Harvey on the good side, right? Like, he's a very explosive player. He's a breakaway GOAT, right? And he goes to the Denver Broncos at the end of the 2nd round. So few things to really like touch on here. RJ Harvey, for me, I have major vision concerns with him. And I've put that on camera. I've gone through the film with you guys. I've like walked you through where I see a ton of holes just being missed by RJ Harvey. So he makes me nervous in that sense. However, on the flip side, I've compared him to like a DeAndre Swift or a Miles Sanders, saying that those guys had vision concerns too. But in the right situation and in the right offense, they can produce as a very, very high ceiling fantasy player. And this is really no different here. RJ Harvey, handpicked by Sean Payton in the 2nd round, goes to Denver. Like, Denver's got a very, very underrated and a very good offensive line. I think they were actually like number 1 in the NFL last year in pass block grade per PFF and number 11 in run block grade per PFF. And, you know, Bo Nix coming into his 2nd year, I only expect those numbers to improve. So he's going to be running in a very good offense with a very good scheme, a very good coach, a good young quarterback with a very good offensive line. So as much as I didn't like that, I see the vision here and I see the upside. But again, I don't want to get carried away. Like, he's a 205-pound running back. And not that we should be overly concerned about size anymore, because we've seen a lot of running backs kind of like break that mold and break that barrier. But I don't see a world where Sean Payton rides him into 20-plus touches a game either. So I will say I think they could scheme him up a lot. I think he can catch a lot of passes. I think he can make a lot of big plays and be a fun player in fantasy because of who he is and how explosive he is. Like, his 10 and 15-plus yard run rate is insane. But again, I do have concerns like about whether or not he'll play on a ton of early downs. Like, maybe they use Audric Estime on the majority of early down runs. Goal line work, I don't really know there, but fun, exciting pick for sure. And I felt like the Denver running back spot was probably like the nut spot. Like, that was such a good landing spot for any running back to go to. And I think it was kind of funny because you saw Judkins go off to Cleveland and then the Patriots go off and grab Henderson. And then I think what happened pretty much was like Chicago and Denver were probably looking for one of those two running backs. As soon as those two guys got drafted, you saw both of those teams start to trade back. Denver was trading back. Chicago was trading back. They kept moving back in the draft because I think they were looking for I think Denver, you know, if you look at RJ Harvey, treveyon Henderson profiles very, very similarly and a much better prospect in my opinion. They were probably looking for treveyon Henderson. And because he got picked right before him, they moved back and said, you know, RJ Harvey is like the next guy up for us. He is the next best thing that kind of fits our Joker running back role here. And that felt like apparent to me as I was watching the draft. And these two running back needy teams didn't get their guys. So it's like, we don't see the value anymore. Let's just move back. Right after Harvey, we have Jayden Higgins at 15. Now, Jayden Higgins goes in that like and it's funny because I kind of comp Jayden Higgins to a T. Higgins or a Michael Pittman, and he goes right into that draft capital spot, early second round to the Houston Texans. So really good landing spot on paper for sure. You know, they needed another wide receiver outside of Nico Collins because Tank Dell is going to be gone or out for the season. Stephon Diggs is gone. And they need, you know, another pass catcher for CJ Stroud. So Higgins at 15, I love it. And we'll have a more holistic conversation in a second. But the reason he's down at 15 is kind of the same reason that I have Luther Burden down at 17. So Higgins is 15. I have Jackson Dart at 16. You can make the argument that if you want to take Dart all the way up at like the 112, I'm probably fine with it. He's a first-round quarterback, but end of first round, depending on how you feel about Dart, go get him if you want to. I don't think you should really let a first-round quarterback slide too far down. But I do have questions about this overall quarterback class, so I'm not going to overreach on Dart when I have other prospects that I really like in this class. So Dart is 16. I have Luther Burden at 17, which I know is going to raise some fucking some arms here. Here's kind of the problem right now with Chicago is they have way too many fucking good players. I didn't love Burden as a prospect. Like the first round hype and like the really, really high draft capital hype wasn't something that I agreed with, but he does get really good capital, you know, early second round going to Chicago. And it does make the offense a little bit messy, man. It's Rome, it's DJ Moore, it's Luther Burden, it's Colston Loveland now. They still have Cole Kmet. DeAndre Swift has been a huge winner so far. It's just the draft didn't break in the way that they wanted to take a running back. So they have a lot of weapons there, man. And it's tough to really parse out what's going to happen. Like Moore was obviously the one there last year. Keenan Gone does open up targets, but Rome is probably going to take a step forward here. And I asked myself, like, realistically, statistically, we love all these guys, right? And DJ Moore is good, and Rome is good, and Burden's the GOAT, and he's going to break out. Burden's probably going to play a slot role. Loveland's going to split snaps with Cole Kmet early on. And it's like unless Caleb Williams is throwing for 46 to 48 to 5,000 yards per season, two of these guys in Chicago are likely going to be 600, 700, 800 yard receivers annually. Like that's just the way the stats break. Like that's what's going to happen here, unfortunately. So I think you just have to factor a little bit of that risk into where you're ranking guys, right? So I had Tyler Warren over Colston Loveland yesterday, even before they drafted Luther Burden, but I think this makes it even messier, and that makes my decision even clearer here. And, you know, there are ways to get there, obviously. Like Colston Loveland can have 700 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns, and he's a great fantasy tight end because of those touchdowns. But I do think it just makes the situation a little bit murky. Like, clearly, they have not figured out the passing game in Chicago, so it's not like we're injecting all these phenomenal players into Andy Reid's offense with Patrick Mahomes. Like, they still have to make sure that they get this whole thing right first with Ben Johnson. And I think we have a lot of confidence that they will, but not all this is figured out. And now you have so many good players in one offense. So I think it'll be Rome outside. I think it'll be DJ Moore outside. I think Burden will play the slot role there, which is great because you don't necessarily have to be a great man separator to play the slot. And he's so good after the catch with the ball in his hands that I think that mold or that role fits him perfectly. But you do have to ask yourself, like, you know, in different personnel, it's weird. Like, they're never going to share the field, Burden and Loveland, right? When it's 12 personnel, it'll be Rome and DJ Moore, and Burden's off the field. And when it's 11 personnel, like, maybe it's Cole Kmet, because Cole Kmet is probably a better blocker than Colston Loveland. And in 11 personnel, you don't necessarily want to tip your hand and say, like, okay, Colston Loveland's in, so we know that they are passing the ball, you know, and I don't know. I don't know how this offense is going to progress, but I do think there is risk involved now that they have so many good players there. So Burden's down at 17. I have Kyle Williams and Jaylen Noel at 18, 19, which I think is a nice little sexy tier there. Kyle Williams goes to New England in the third round. Jaylen Noel goes to Houston in the third round as well. And this is also why I brought Jayden Higgins down a little bit. Higgins and Noel were teammates at Iowa State, which is a fucking really cool pairing there because I like both of them a lot as prospects. But you do now have to ask yourself, like, okay, now you have multiple really good receivers coming in. Does that now cap what Jayden Higgins can do? What if Jaylen Noel is better than Jayden Higgins, right? You have to factor all these things in. And it reminds me a little bit of, I remember when Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave came out, and Musgrave went before Tucker Kraft in the draft. I like Tucker Kraft more as a prospect and was targeting him more in rookie drafts. So I will say, like, if you like Jaylen Noel more than Higgins as a prospect, don't be afraid just because the draft capital was one round apart to go get your guy, to go target the Jaylen Noel over Jayden Higgins if you feel like that's the right thing to do. Because at the end of the day, they're in the exact same situation. Day 2 picks attached to CJ Stroud. So I think Noel will probably play more of the slot role, and he does have to compete with Christian Kirk off the rip here, where Jayden Higgins plays a completely different role and will probably play the outside to start things off, but does get a little bit messy there now. But I really like both prospects. I think they're perfect second-round rookie darts. After that, we have, less exciting prospects. I think we hit that 19 spot, and then it's a lot of quarterbacks, tight ends, and wide receivers that I'm not overly in love with. I took at the 20 spot Tyler Shuck, who goes to New Orleans. I think it was pick 40 or 41, so they get their quarterback. People do not like Tyler Shuck. If you go and search on Twitter, people will be like, he's got some of the best arm talent in the draft. But people hate the fact that he is old. He's been to like multiple schools. There are a ton of red flags on his profile, but he might get the starting job in New Orleans. So there needs to be something to be said for that as value in a super flex league. So Tyler Shuck, I got at 20. Mason Taylor goes to the New York Jets, 42nd overall. Really like this pairing. Gives Justin Fields a very, very strong-handed pass catcher there over the middle. Mason Taylor has some of the best hands in this entire draft. Position agnostic here. So Mason Taylor's a really, really good prospect. I don't know how high the volume can really get for Mason Taylor in terms of like who he is as a prospect and just that passing offense in New York. So Mason Taylor's at 21. Would be happy to take him at the end of the second. Jack Besh goes to Las Vegas at the end of the second. So they give Jacoby Myers a really strong-handed pass catcher on the opposite side there. So I like Besh, but again, I do question his fantasy upside overall. And then after Besh, it's really hard to make a case for any of these guys having a super strong impact immediately. I think you've got this tier of Terrence Ferguson out there in LA, tight end, and Harold Fannin Jr. going to Cleveland. Cleveland, like I like Fannin Jr. a lot as a receiving tight end, but of course he's now kind of like secondary to David Njoku, and it's almost like the Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely situation where it's like, we know Likely's good, but like when are we going to get the chance to ever see it, right? Like, does Cleveland care that he's good enough to be the one there? Probably not while they have Njoku. And then Terrence Ferguson goes to LA. Sean McVay loves this guy, so I do think it's warranted to probably rank Ferguson over Harold Fannin. Reminds him a lot of Tyler Higbee, very athletic tight end there. So I like him. We've got Jalen Milroe at 25. He goes to Seattle in the third round. Obviously, a ton of upside with the rushing ability, but when will he get on the field? If ever, Sam Darnold's there. He'll learn under him for a couple of years, and we'll see what happens. At 26, I've got Elijah Arroyo. He goes to Seattle as well. Pass-catching tight end out of Miami. They still have Noah Fant there, so, we'll kind of just see how that situation plays out, but he was a third-round pick. At 27, we've got Pat Bryant, wide receiver, going to Denver. He was a third-round pick as well. He's kind of like a Tim Patrick. He is similar in play style to Tim Patrick. Better against zone than he is against man, but I do think that the Broncos need pass-catching weapons there. So, there is room for some pass catcher to emerge there. Day 2 pick, Pat Bryant, why not? 28, 29, 30, I've got Dylan Gabriel at 28. The Cleveland Browns took him. They need a quarterback. This definitely does not say that he's their starter by any means. It was the end of the third round. They will see what they got in training camp, and maybe he gets onto the field this year. I don't know. He's not going to play over Joe Flacco. I don't think they've re-signed him, so I'm not sure. But super flex, whatever, third round pick, why not? Ty Felton goes to Minnesota. There's just no path to targets in Minnesota, unfortunately, with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson there. Felton's, a cool little third receiver. He could definitely be a role player, take that Jalen Naylor role, but I'm not overly excited about Felton as a third-round pick. And then Savion Williams goes to Green Bay. Savion Williams is just a weapon. He's not a receiver, really, and Green Bay already took a first-round wide receiver in Matthew Golden. Already has an extremely crowded wide receiver room there with all the guys that are in, Green Bay already. So Savion Williams is my 30th of 30th ranked players in the draft right now. And there you have it, okay? Those are the 30 skill players that were picked from rounds 1 through rounds 3. And again, I think you do yourself a favor by not looking at everybody as just like 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 12, 14, and do yourself a little bit of work on the side to put these guys in tiers. And then within the tiers, do I need this position? If I value them the same, what fits my team better? I think you're a lot better off doing that, because once you start to get too, ingrained in how you feel about a specific player, if you think that your player analysis is perfect and this guy's going to be good and this guy's going to be bad, that's when you're going to start making mistakes in Dynasty. All right. So thinking that how a player's career is going to turn out is one of the most insane mistakes that you will make as a Dynasty player that you should stop doing and start letting, draft capital dictate, opportunity dictate, and using this kind of like tier mechanism to target who you need in your rookie draft. But there you have it. You've got the top 30 rookie rankings. All right. Subscribe to the channel. We'll redo this again after rounds 4 through 7. We'll have a bunch of rookie mock drafts going out this week as well. We'll get to some of you guys in the Discord if you want to be in those rookie mock drafts. So the link to the Discord, free to join, of course, will be down below. Thank you guys for hanging out today. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you when I see you. Smoochies.